Think about a vat that is large enough to hold 2,000 gallons. That is the amount of blood that gets pumped through your heart on a daily basis. Your heart is going to beat, on average, about 115,000 times a day. And it does that for most of us without fail and without problem for decades. A fun fact about the cardiovascular system is that the first open heart surgery was done in 1893 by one of the few African American cardiologists in the country, a doctor whose name was Daniel Hale Williams. And another fun fact about heart surgery is that the youngest person to have had heart surgery was a minute old. She has survived multiple surgeries. Unfortunately, she will eventually need a heart transplant, however. So, knowing those few fun facts, let's see what else we can learn about the heart. We know that its main job is to make sure we can transport material, whether it be gases, nutrients, or wastes throughout the body, to the tissues and cells, and then back away from the cells so we can excrete wastes. It's not terribly large. It's only about the size of your fist. It's going to weigh 250, 300 grams or so. It is located within the mediastinum, and it is mostly left of the mid-sagittal line. It is rotated to the left, so the right atrium and the right ventricle will be seen in an anterior view. The area, the so-called flat area, through which the great vessels emerge or enter the heart is known as the base. The apex, which is the rounded point, rounded aspect, is considered the apex. Never forget that it is a 4-chambered, 2-sided pump. One side will pump blood through the pulmonary circuit off to the lungs for oxygenation, and the other side will pump blood off to systemic circulation, in other words, out to the body. Chambers on the right are going to receive deoxygenated blood returning from the tissues. It will pump that blood off to the lungs in order to release carbon dioxide and exchange that for oxygen. The blood will then return back to the heart and enter the chambers on the left, and the left side of the heart will pump that blood off to the body to supply oxygen to the tissues. So the right side of the heart is considered pulmonary circulation, and the left side of the heart is considered systemic circulation. There are 4 chambers, 2 atria, one on the right, one on the left. Those are the ones that are going to receive blood. And 2 ventricles, one on the right, one on the left. And those are the ones that are going to pump the blood either off to pulmonary circulation or systemic circulation. The atria are superior to the ventricles. There it is, in situ, in its location. It is within the ventral cavity, and more specifically within the thoracic cavity, within the mediastinum, and most specifically within the pericardial cavity. It is going to sit superior to the diaphragm and actually rests on the diaphragm. So let's talk about its coverings. It is going to be enclosed within 3 membranes. The membranes are known as the pericardium. The superficial layer of the pericardium is known as the fibrous pericardium. And what a surprise, it is going to be made up of fibrous connective tissue, and that's going to form the most superficial or outermost wall. It protects the heart. It's going to help anchor it to the structures that are around it, and it will also play an important role in preventing the heart from overfilling. So I would know those functions if I were you. The deeper layer is the serous pericardium. And anytime you hear serous, think serous membranes, and you'll remember that serous membranes have two layers. There will be a superficial layer known as the parietal layer that is actually going to line the inside of the pericardium. And there will be a visceral layer, also known as the epicardium, that will cover the surface of the heart. That will be the deeper layer. Between the visceral parietal layers, because they are serous membranes, will be the pericardial cavity. And that will contain a film of serous fluid that is going to help lubricate in between the membranes. We've seen an image like this before. It is a fist pushed into a semi-filled balloon. The fist is analogous to the heart. The layer of the balloon that follows the contours of the fist is going to correspond with the visceral layer of the serous pericardium. The space containing air will be analogous to the pericardial cavity, and the outer wall of that balloon is going to be corresponding to the parietal layer of the serous pericardium. So there we have it. We know what the pericardium is. You do need to know about pericarditis. Anytime you hear itis and itis, you have inflammation, and sure enough, pericarditis is inflammation of the pericardium. You may have also heard cardiac tamponade, which means there's an excess accumulation of pericardial fluid.